What's up, guys? I'm Pierce, this is Tales from the Road, and we're standing here in central Saigon with one objective today. I'm going to tell you why I love living in Saigon and why it's such a special city, so we'll be comparing the pros and the cons for someone thinking about moving to Saigon. Let's do it. I've lived in Vietnam for almost a year now, and I've had Saigon be my home city. It's a wild place, it's a crazy place to live, but it's got so much action, such a wonderful place to be. So, listing pros first. Why do I love Saigon? Number one, convenience. Saigon is one of the most convenient cities you will ever go to. If you need anything in the world, if you need to go to the doctor, if you want street food, if you honestly have any need, the Saigonese people will be there to fill your needs. They will be there to make sure that you not only have service, but that you have the best service. And it honestly goes above and beyond of the service that I've ever had anywhere else in the world. Moving to Europe quite a while ago, I noticed a step down in service from where I used to live in the United States. But I found here in Saigon, people are willing and happy to help you with just about anything. There's also a large formal and informal market here, so if you want something more formal, like if you want to make a doctor's appointment or go to a nice restaurant, the service is fantastic. You can easily find people to speak English. It's great. That being said, there's also a big informal sector, which makes the convenience factor so much higher. If it's late night, it's 3 in the morning and you need to get home, there will be someone with a motorbike ready to take you for any price that you kind of are willing to pay. If it's late night or it's a random time and there's not necessarily food available at typical restaurants, there will be someone in the street ready to help you out, cooking you something up delicious. Anytime you need anything, Saigon is the place for you. You can use Tiki, which is like Amazon, so you can order anything online. Most stores cater to pretty much any need you have, and many times if they don't have what you need, they will somehow go find it, so they would keep your service as opposed to you going somewhere else. Convenience in Saigon, excellent. The number two thing I would say is a huge pro for living here is the large expat community and the amazing, vibrant local community. So, what I mean by that is you have people from all over the world that come to Saigon for work, for travel, to be a digital nomad, to teach English. So there's always lots of different things going on for foreigners. There's our local Facebook pages, you can find events going on, you can find cool bars and cafes, you can find exhibitions, there's all kinds of stuff going on. There's also amazing restaurants that have opened, Mexican, Italian, Korean. There's huge expat communities here, so you get all that kind of internationalness that you could want in a big city. That being said, if that's not your vibe, and you really came to Asia to experience the Asian culture alone and just to kind of immerse yourself in something different, Saigon is an amazing place to do it. You can live in a non-expat oriented district. You could have people living around you that speak no English, have never ever learned English, and that know nothing about you. So you can both be on the grid with things that you know and completely off the grid, and that's a beautiful thing about Saigon. Number three is what I'm calling exotic but doable, or Asia light. So Vietnam is a pretty crazy place. There's lots of deep cultural history and there's a lot of complex social things. That's true. But the one huge thing that you have an advantage here over, like for example Thailand or China or Japan or South Korea, is that essentially they use the Latinized alphabet, which means that you can actually read their language. It's a big step up when you go to a restaurant or when you're confused. Typically you can just, Google Translate something and you can still at least participate a little bit. If you're in China, you can't read, you just can't do it. But here in Vietnam, you have the exoticness of being somewhere else, being somewhere very, very different, but you have just a little bit to grasp onto where you feel a bit comfortable because of the language. And that is like a big, big pro, especially in comparison to all of the other countries in the region, pretty much besides Indonesia and the Philippines. Number 4 on our list is cheapness. Saigon is cheap as hell. It is probably one of the cities that you can have the most amount of things for the least amount of money. To give you some context, you can get street food all over the city, like a full meal for about $1 to $1.50. You can rent an apartment, like in a shared house, for something like $200 to $300. You can get your private studio apartment for, like a really nice swanky one for less than $500 a month. And not only that, but transportation here is really cheap. They don't have a really amazing transportation infrastructure like public transit, but taxis here are so cheap that it really doesn't matter. You can take like a 5 to 6 kilometer taxi ride for like less than $4. The cheapness here, I think, is what's so attractive for many startuppers, many people looking to start businesses, many people looking to save money, work, and travel. It's an amazing place to do so, and you don't miss out on any of the benefits of living in a big city. So, you know, like New York City, San Francisco, Los Angeles, awful places for value. But Vietnam, you can get it all, you can have it all, and you can pay for it all really easy and save money as well. Last but not least on what made Saigon an amazing city is the people. Saigonese people, especially people in the south of Vietnam, are incredibly nice, incredibly friendly, very interested and curious. They want to meet you, they want to interact with you, but they also know when to leave you alone as well. So that's really good. As I say, sometimes it's hard to blend in here, especially being, you know, like a tall white guy from America. It becomes a challenge to sometimes find peace where people aren't always harassing you. But in Saigon, since it's a big city, we have lots of business people. You don't really have that experience where if you're in places that are not super touristy, where people hassle you for any reason. That being said, the Saigon itself is also incredibly safe. It's the safest city I think I've ever lived in, where I can walk around or be out anytime at night, feel completely safe. Granted, I'm a man and I'm a big dude, but in general, I have many friends who are girls here who also feel quite safe. Being alone at night, running at night, all the stuff that kind of comes with it. The government here really cracks down on criminals. There's not a lot of homelessness. There's not a lot of drug addicts. So it is an excellent place to be if you're looking for, you know, a nice city with safety, security, feeling comfortable, convenience, like all the things wrapped up into one. An amazing spot. One last pro, and this is a caveat because during Corona times it doesn't really matter. This is an amazing hub city to live out of if you enjoy traveling. So Saigon is basically 2 hours from Bangkok, 4 hours from Manila, 2 hours from Kuala Lumpur, 5 hours from Tokyo. So you have a lot of options, and the visa process here is pretty easy. There's not a lot to it. You just have to make sure it's always valid, and you have to make sure that you get it before you come across the border. So being a hub city, you get the option to move around, which is nice, and the flights out of Saigon are pretty cheap. So in general, it's really just one of the best cities in Asia, like just such a gem, and I'm so happy that I lived here for a year. Now, this is a Why I Love Vietnam video, but you cannot talk about any place without being objective. Objectivity is the key to intelligence, right? So we're gonna talk about some cons. So the number one con for Saigon is the noise and the construction. So Saigon's a really noisy city, but actually Vietnam is really noisy in general. The people are quite loud, like talking above a normal volume is really normal here. People on their cell phones without headphones is really normal here. People yelling at each other is really normal here. And compounded on top of that is animals living in the city, dogs and roosters and all kinds of strange creatures that you didn't know would live in a city, but they live here. And the last part is the construction and traffic noise. There's a lot of cars, lots of motorbikes, lots of engines revving, and the construction here is non-stop. It's a developing country, but a lot of money's coming in here, so buildings are popping up literally everywhere, all over the place, all the time. So you've got the drilling noise, you've got the banging hammer noise, you've got lots of different stuff. So if you do move to Saigon, or Vietnam in general, could be Da Nang, could be Hanoi, you have to know that make sure where you live is at least reasonably quiet, because construction can start at 4 in the morning, and that's a big thing to know for sure before coming here. Con number 2 would be the language barrier. So I'm an American, I have no expectation that everyone is going to speak English, but some Vietnamese people don't know anything except Vietnamese. And the language barrier really comes out is because Vietnamese is a tonal language. So if you don't say the word completely right, they won't understand you. So for example, the word chicken is ga. I'm sure I said that wrong, because ga can also be train station, ga can be a bad name for a woman. It's the whole thing. So the language barrier becomes even stronger because they often don't hear Vietnamese with any type of accent or any type of wrong intonation. So their understanding of you can be completely wrong, and you're like, what's wrong? Why can't I talk to these people? But it's not a you problem. It's not necessarily a them problem. It's just the fact of their language plus the fact that Vietnamese isn't spoken by a lot of other people. So that's one thing to note when moving to Saigon. The next con, I would say, could be a pro for some people. For me, it's okay, would be the weather. It is hot as hell here all year long. Like, right now I'm in the sun. I'm definitely sweating. It's easily gonna be around 100 degrees today, and with the humidity, it's gonna be like 110 in Celsius. That's somewhere in the upper 30s for sure. So the weather's something you gotta know about. In the summer months, between basically May and between September, you're also going to get the rainy season where it just pours rain all the time. There's a bit of flooding. And yeah, it's a very strange thing because rain here, it doesn't drizzle, it just monsoons. So anytime you're moving to Southeast Asia, this is not a Vietnam thing or a Saigon thing specific. You gotta be ready for the humidity, you gotta be ready to tackle the rainy season, and you've gotta be ready to put on some sunscreen every day. It's important for us white folk. The next con on our list, and this is something that a lot of people just can't hang with their first few weeks in Saigon, is the traffic and the pollution. So Saigon is really busy. We're talking 10 million people for sure, probably more people living here, and most people get around by motorbike. The traffic here, I've never seen anything worse, and I probably will never see anything worse. Driving, you know, you can do it. Like, I drive a motorbike every day, it's not so bad, but the motorbikes do create a lot of pollution, so you end up wearing a mask a lot. So it's funny, before coronavirus, like everyone was already wearing masks, so I already had masks, and I was already wearing it pretty much 50% of the day anyway when I was outside, because you don't want to get all that pollution in your face. I remember the first time I was in Saigon, it was really kind of shocking. We walked down a street and it was just like, whoa, like so much pollution. So I've kind of gotten used to it. It's something you're gonna get used to no matter what. It's just, it's not ideal, and it's just something to definitely be aware of. There's definitely places you can live in that are less dense, where you can get a little bit more fresh air. But since I've been living in Saigon, the more places I go that are like outdoors, just the better, the more I appreciate it for sure. The last con on this list is something like a little bit personal, and you know, it's something that probably wouldn't be a big deal for other people, but I feel like Vietnam is a very like closed culture, meaning that if you don't speak Vietnamese, or even if you do speak Vietnamese, like you're still never going to be seen as Vietnamese or really part of the people who live here. So I know a lot of expats who speak some Vietnamese, and you know, it's really cool that they can, and it's really important for having like higher level jobs or feeling a part of the community. But in a way, sometimes it's a bit gimmicky. Like, as they treat you like, oh, look at this funny foreigner who speaks Vietnamese, and you'll never get that kind of feeling of true integration, just because there's kind of like a club here, and if you're not in the club, then you're not in the club. So it doesn't really bother me so much. But if you learn French like to a certain degree, or you learn Spanish to a certain degree, like you can be in the club. And so I think it spans more than language, but also culture and what we look like, how we talk, how we interact, and the things that all come with that. So the Vietnamese have a very particular style of doing things. I have a very particular style of doing things. And I think even if I spoke fluent Vietnamese, no one would ever for a second say I was just like a Vietnamese guy. Whereas if you move to the US and you just learn English, it's like, that's an American guy, sure. So yeah, it's a little bit of a closed circle, a little hard to penetrate. Plus there's a lot of historical stuff too, and just cultural stuff that you don't grow up with. So I think that's what makes Asia so alluring, is all the things that we don't know about it as foreigners. So that is my last con. That being said, my friends, we listed some cons, we listed some pros, but my God, the pros outweigh the cons. Living here has been a blessing. It's been one of the best places I've ever lived, one of the most interesting cities for me on the planet, someplace I'll always have in my heart, and someplace I will continue to return to until I'm old and gray. So if you found the video helpful, definitely comment below. I'd love to hear some feedback. If you liked the video, make sure to, of course, like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Notifications are important so you can see new updates from Tales from the Road. We're winding down our time here in Vietnam. I've got just about a week and a half left on my stay here, and then I will be moving to a location to be disclosed. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys have a great day, and cheers.